This meeting is being recorded.
Got it.
Interesting. I just heard that like in stereo. Welcome, welcome, my friends, to the 105th episode of Sanctuary Online. Isn't that just shocking and wonderful and interesting, that fact? And hold on, one more in. Let's all make her do push-ups. Oh, Kristen. Come on, Kristen.
Showing us a note.
Oh, then she went away. Then she came back. Then she went away. Welcome, Kristen. And you don't even have to say you're not sure what the title of the book was this month. You just need to be with us, right?
Long time no see.
I know. I've had a lot of
Long time no
conflict.
see.
So just here to hang out tonight.
That's all right. Carol's here. She says that she didn't finish the book and she's okay with spoilers. So we're good to go. And I just welcomed everyone. So that includes you now as well, Kristen Vandermeer. I'm happy that a few of you are on new tonight, missing last week. Oh my gosh, bud. I need to hold on here. I'm going to share my screen, do all this stuff. We know who you are. You know who we are and how to get a hold of us, right? So once again, it's great to see all your faces. And the way to contact us is through our text feature. So those of you that didn't know it was Tuesday until I called you, get your text from Barb by giving her your phone number. You're good to go. Okay. Barb sends a little text reminder every Tuesday. It says we're not on tonight or we are on tonight. Facebook, hopefully you'll see us there. And again, emailing us at talktous@sanctuaryinthewood. Also nice to reveal tonight that we are updating our website significantly because of Giving Tuesday. What did I say? Say it with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Giving Tuesday.
Thank you, bud. Everybody together. 1, 2, 3.
Giving
Tuesday.
Yeah. How exciting is that, right? So we actually have a very coordinated effort this year, a little bit different than normal. I'll tell you about that. But excited to drive folks to our website because we have so much going on. Let's get to that. Thank you, Bud and Dell, for last week. Oh my goodness. The Interior Alaska travel log was just a thing of beauty and informative and wonderful. So thank you for that, my friend. It is not yet up on YouTube because I live in the woods, but when we get it up in YouTube this weekend, when I go to Kelly's house, because she has internet, I will make sure Carol, Kristen gets it to you because it was really quite something. Tonight, Sweetness of Water, the last book club of 2022. Ooh, raw, way to go, y'all. And then
No, it's actually not the last book club of 2022, sort of, but
Cheryl
we have a
wants to-
book. We have a
Hold on,
book that
don't-
we'll be
don't-
reading
Don't
in
waste it.
December.
Cheryl,
What?
don't.
I'm just going to say we have a book we'll be reading in December. It's called The Cookbook.
You couldn't wait. You couldn't wait till I get to your slide. Okay, so she's the only person I know that laughs harder at her own jokes than, Cheryl just cracks herself up, I swear. So November 29th, what is that going on, Bud?
Giving Tuesday.
Thank you. Giving Tuesday. And then December 6th is cookbook orders. That'll be wonderfully fun. And then we have 2 CLM information sessions, one this month on December 13th, next month, and then January 10th. And then mark your calendars now, our annual meeting. We normally do that on a Sunday afternoon, but because our lives are full and it made sense, I'm going to go up on a regular Tuesday night. So the 17th is our annual meeting. Please come and bring 3 friends. Last year we had a good attendance, really we did. And we worked very hard to put an entire presentation together of what happened all year, accountability to you all, to our whole community, and where we're going. So that's that. Tonight, like I said, almost the last book club of the year, right, Cheryl? Almost. Thank you. Sweetness of Water. So enjoy that. Kristen, you just listen, and Carol, you can talk for the first half. All right, there we go. So that's what I say. So truly, I want to show a few of you who weren't here last week. We made a big investment in our pond, which now we call Lake Sanctuary. It's about the size of freaking Lake Erie. And we cleaned it, we deepened it, we cleared it, and we took advantage basically of the incredibly dry time we've had down here in Texas, and I'll show you how dry it was in just a minute. But we've got a couple phases. So phase 1 is done, and we are still looking to do a rock feature on the north end, pilings for a bridge. God fills the lake with water, and then the bridge to the island coming, at a later date. But just to show you, this is my tiny house, which you can see is tinier than that big yellow guy, right? So gotta love that. You ever wonder how small it is, Kristen? Very, okay. And you can see all this, all this side growth, right? And trees, there were massive trees. This is actually in the pond. So you can tell there's no water in the this is the north end, the shallow end up by the highway, by the park. But early on in the stage, this guy just got in there and started digging away. You can notice that it got deeper and deeper. Look how tiny he looks compared to this massive mountain of clay. He brought a friend along here, and you can see again, all the way, this right here is the island, which by definition should be surrounded by water. It's not. There's a tiny bit of water in the back end of the pond back there. And you can see these guys start, there's like a 4-story mountain of dirt right there right now. There's Bader. This is it in kind of the after. It is God filling it back up. Not far you can see, but the island is indeed finally covered. And I'll notice all the cleaning of all this area along here and deepening. There's my pile of dirt. Again, just see how clean the pond is, how far back they cleared just by, putting the dirt that they had cleaned out of the pond. There's a bit of Cheryl, so you can see how teeny tiny she is compared to how deep the pond is back there. Okay. Bader, taking it all in. Island, big house, tiny house. A little bit of a close-up. Once again, really did an amazing job. And we're excited for God to fill the rest of it and you to help us pay for it on Giving Tuesday. When? Giving Tuesday, right, the 29th of this year. So we've got a nice phased project plan that you'll hear more about soon. This is kind of a rock feature we're thinking of doing to close it up on the end, and a picture of a bridge, not the bridge, but a bridge that we'll have going over to the island. So you can come get married, take a picture on our bridge, or come and fish. Either way, weddings, fishing. Oh, Cheryl, December 6th is a night of Christmas cookies. We'd love not only photos of your Christmas cookies, but also recipes. You want to post a whole bunch of recipes on our Facebook page. So when folks actually go to Giving Tuesday and look for us, they can see loads and loads and pick up some wonderful cookbook recipes. Cheryl, ready? Your slide.
And where did you get these cookbooks? Or where did you get these cookies? Who's that a picture of?
Did you not see?
That's Kelly's cookies.
Oh, sorry, Kelly. I didn't give Kelly credit for these last week. Sorry, Kelly. They're gorgeous.
Those are actually the kids' cookies. I have never decorated one that good.
I know, but they do an amazing job.
Yes, they do.
Cheryl, I was giving you this slide, your slide.
Ooh, nice. It's here. It's not actually physically here, but I just got 10 UPS notifications this afternoon that said there are 10 boxes of 34 pounds each coming from Moore's Cookbooks, and they'll be here Friday. So,
Is that what they look like, the cover?
We're not sure.
The cover looks
You're not sure.
like that, but it's not a book like that. It's a
3-ring binder.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
But that is the front cover. We're just not quite sure exactly the color they color matched for us. But yeah, Sanctuary Kitchen Cookbook, 200 fabulous recipes with a gang of Christmas cookie recipes in there too. But it's going to be actually a 3-ring binder, Kelly. So you can, put your own recipes in, or also if we ever do a supplement, and ship them out to you. Yeah.
The
But we're
pictures.
extremely excited.
You could sell a bunch of pictures and we could insert them.
Okay.
I just keep plugging those pictures, don't I?
Speaking of selling them, the books are $20. Shipping is $5. And gift wrapping is $3. So because we're going to have them here in time. If you'd like, we can ship them to you and you can wrap them, or Tom's amazing. You can leave us and we'll wrap them for you and ship them off to all your family and friends for Christmas. Did you hear that? We'll ship them all off, you know, however many you order, like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. Kay, you got in for one last week, right? Kay is our second pre-order, I think. So anyway, excited to do that. If you want faster shipping or any details or special delivery or anything, you can call us at or email us at talktous@sanctuaryinthewoods.com, and we will respond right away and get back with you. But we are incredibly excited that this project is done and able to get into many, many, many stockings. Hint, hint, stockings for Christmas. So finally, CLM, as we said, coming online Q1 2023. That is the next thing we move into. So first thing we're doing obviously is pre-orders for cookbooks. Next thing we're doing is what, Bud Twilly, on Tuesday?
Giving Tuesday.
Thank you, on Tuesday the 29th.
Good job.
And, it really is our largest fundraiser of the year. So we're very excited about that. And we're working hard. You see that mountain? I'll tell you guys, it's a secret. That mountain of dirt. If we get a sunny day between now and the 29th, we're gonna wheel Ken out there carefully, and he's gonna stand there. And that'll be like our $1,000 limit when we hit it. We're gonna put a picture of Ken up. Then we're gonna put Tom up higher on the mountain. And when we hit $2,000, we're gonna put Tom up, you know, he'll be our second goal. Cheryl and I haven't, or no, Barb, you're gonna be $3,000, right? And then Cheryl and I haven't argued about who's gonna be 4,000 and 5,000, but those are our goals. So it'll be kind of fun to, you know, can you put Tom on the mountain kind of thing. So we're really excited about our campaign this year. Oh, Cheryl, that's my part.
Phew.
Woo. They're all yours, love.
Okay, let's get to the book, huh?
Your hair looks good.
Yeah, thank you. It's getting a little long. It no longer looks like
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Ellen
Jamie Lee
DeGeneres.
Curtis. Yeah, it doesn't look like her
Oh,
anymore. But I'm getting back to it. We'll get back to it in December.
It's like
When I
all
get
those
back to it.
lesbians look alike.
Yeah, right.
Bud.
Nice talk. Yeah. All righty then. This was
Nice.
I was telling Kay it's a little bit tough for me because it was kind of a melancholy type of book, right? All the way through. And first thing I wanted to ask was, now that you've read it or not, when you think about the title, The Sweetness of Water, what references in the book describe images of the sweetness of water? What do you think? He referenced it specifically once, but other than that.
Well, Landry was fascinated with the water in the fountain. That was one of them.
Yeah.
I guess he got inside of it and floated her, I think. But then he
I was kind of surprised that since it's the title of the book, that the connection to Landry's love for water, other than just saying he went swimming in the fountain, didn't really appear until almost the end of the book. That was a little surprising, to me, because I read Landry liked the water. He got in the water and he got in a pond one time, but I hadn't made that real strong connection until right at the end of the book.
Any other connections you guys think of? With Landry for sure. When they would stop and work and they would let them go drink water, that was where they said a little bit the sweetness of water, in drinking it. After the slaves had been working all day, they finally got to go get a drink of water, right? So that was one reference to it. Interesting. All right, that was just a get us started thing. So this book, it's interesting to me, and I'm just going to jump right into part of this. That we are reading this book this week, and at the same time, the gay bar in Colorado Springs was attacked. And so my next question is, what part do laws play in stopping discrimination?
Hmm.
Wow.
Well,
Because that's what start, right? And they had a new law. No more slavery. And yet,
sometimes it
Problem
makes it
is
worse.
that you can't legislate people's feelings. You can hold them accountable for their actions by law, but you can't legislate feelings. And, you know, I grew up in Mississippi in the 1940s and 50s, and this book is set in Reconstruction. And many historians say that Reconstruction was still going on in Mississippi when I was a child there. Reconstruction was not even over in the 1940s and 50s because the exact same attitudes that existed in 1865 existed in 1945 in Mississippi, even though tons of laws tried to change people's behavior, they could not change their attitudes.
well, and
And
you
it's-
still, the people that were in your home that helped, your nanny and stuff, they were Black, but they weren't slaves. They were paid and stuff then?
Yeah, they were, but they were paid very, very poorly and they were treated horribly. And I remember reading after I left Mississippi that when I was in the 8th grade in Mississippi, the state Department of Education spent something like $120 a year on each white student and 6 cents a year on each Black student.
Wow.
They had no books. Their schools were falling down. There was total segregation, of course. You know, there was total segregation. There wasn't a single place anywhere in our lives where Black people and white people were together, except when Black people were working for white people.
What year was that?
That was in 1958, I believe. It was sometime in the mid 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what's interesting is you can't legislate people's feelings. And even there, though the laws are there, even the laws for today that have been around for a while, it doesn't stop people from taking the law in their own hands, so to speak, or, you know, doing what they want, right? Back then, and it hasn't changed.
No.
Well, and even legislating, especially back then, they even legislated changes to the stuff that was made illegal.
What, Kelly? Say it again.
Well, like they made the Jim Crow laws and all that stuff. They legislated changes to the slavery not being legal by creating those kind of laws.
Were those actual laws, Jim Crow laws and stuff?
I don't know. I just found out about them and I was totally shocked. They weren't, Kristen?
Were they like actual laws on the books, or isn't that the phrase that refers to the way things were done there? Were they actual laws on the
Yeah.
books?
Jim Crow was a name given to a
Yeah.
series of laws that were passed toward the end of Reconstruction to try to, to try to overcome some of the prejudices, but they were horrible. Like one of the laws that's included in the Jim Crow is the thing about Black people being only 3/5 of a person. For
Right.
voting purposes, black people were not a whole person; they were 3/5 of a person. White people were one whole person, and Black people were 3/5 of a person.
Well, women weren't even a person, so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Barb said something too. Some of them were poll taxes.
Wow.
Black people couldn't afford, even after it became legal for Black people to vote, there were poll taxes, there were poll tests. Mississippi had a poll test in the early, like 1910, 1920. if a black person came into a place to vote, they had a jar full of marbles. And unless the black person could guess how many marbles were in the jar, they couldn't vote. That was called a literacy test.
Oh, my God.
Crazy. Yeah, it just, well, we know how laws are today, but and not just with that going on, but
Very briefly summarizing, Wikipedia says the Jim Crow laws were state and local laws enforcing racial segregation in southern United States.
yeah. Thank you. Well, let's jump into something else. And I want to just talk about this, that Austin, who beat and killed Landry. Do you think he would have done that if Landry was white?
No,
No?
no.
I'm not sure because he was terrified that they were going to get exposed.
I think he wouldn't have done it if he was white because he knew he could get away with it because Landry was black.
Yeah.
His fear, I think his fear of a punishment for murdering somebody, if that person was white, would have been greater than his fear of being found out for being gay. Or at least he would have had to at least think about it. It was clear he didn't think about it. He knew that everybody would lie for him and that he would just get away with it. You could kill a black person, it just didn't matter.
I wondered if it would matter who the white person was, because that town was kind of, it was quite classed, right? And I wonder if anybody who was considered to be, the lower class of the whites, if but maybe not. Maybe you couldn't get away with it with the law then as easily. I don't know. But that's what it brought up for me, was I thought, I wonder if he felt like he could get away with it anyway, because of who his dad was, the power that he had, who he was in the town, and also if it had been someone that was not considered much of a, just a lower class person in the town or something. But I don't know. But you guys think mostly because if he felt confident doing it when because he was black anyway. Yeah. Okay. What did you think of the way George and his family lived?
Well, the father seemed to have had money, and so George didn't work. Didn't really work, but they didn't seem like they lived high on the hog either. If they just had a donkey, and but apparently the father had all this land. That's what I gathered. But they sure didn't seem to live very high, and they were kind of looked down on by the plantation owners, I think.
Well, probably before the slaves were set free.
Yeah,
Although, did he have slaves?
they never said. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think
Because
so.
he just started growing.
They didn't have anything to do. He didn't have any
Yeah.
farm.
He just sold off parcels of his land whenever he needed money, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the way they lived, I mean, his whole life without working or without, did that seem weird to you guys, or what did you think of that?
It seemed like the Southern way for plantation owners and stuff back then.
Really?
That they didn't work?
Well, Ted worked. Maybe after the fire he worked, but I think the neighbor Ted, was it Morton,
Oh,
who owned Landry and Prentice? I think they said in some places he was working the fields, because that's why he didn't kill. He said he didn't kill Landry because he was out working in the fields.
And he was doing that after the slaves had been freed. So yeah,
Right.
fewer people work his land.
Right.
How,
I think,
besides
I
that,
think
how were they,
society during Reconstruct, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Ken. I was just gonna move on to.
I- You know, growing up where and when I did, this whole period called Reconstruction following the Civil War has always been really interesting to me. And society was literally just turned upside down. You know, they had in the South, they had created this white class structure, and then the relationship between blacks and whites. There was like a vertical structure for whites and then a horizontal structure with whites and blacks, and it was so concretized, it was so intransigent, that when the slaves were set free and the whole period called Reconstruction came along, everything just went to hell. I mean, it literally was just, it was a period of just unbelievable craziness. Everything, all kinds of social institutions fell apart. And so I think that's sort of, even the way they live that you're talking about there, Cheryl, you know, that may have played into that, you know, as well, that people just didn't know what to do anymore. You know, except those people who had been very, very rich and stayed very, very rich. Everybody else's life was just turned upside down, and all these relationships changed. And you know, one of the things I thought he did very well in this book was to talk about the difference between the way some white people tried to adjust to the different status of Black people in society, and the way others just refused to admit that anything had even changed.
Yeah, and that's one way that George and his family were different, right, from other people, is that they were,
Yeah,
they were somewhat accepting of them, and they weren't sure how to relate to them, but they wanted to relate to them. I mean, even before George found Landry and Prentice and worked with them, even when Isabel ran into Landry, remember that whole thing at him taking the socks? And then, it was not like she was calling him a thief or something. She wanted him to have him. She was like trying to embrace him, trying to bring him in, and, you know, they lived very isolated, their family, and they liked it that way. They weren't, you know, they didn't go to town and visit and socialize and do that sort of thing. They liked it.
Well, George went to town.
Yeah, well. Well, this is true. But what, you know, I mean, it was like they embraced these guys, and what made them different like that? Was it the isolation? What?
Well, they didn't grow up with plantations and slaves, so they I guess they didn't know much about it. So why would they know anything about slaves? I don't know.
part of it is just, you know, you started off, Cheryl, talking about what just happened in Colorado Springs. 2 of the 5 people who were killed in that gay bar were straight people.
Right.
There was a straight man and a straight woman, and the man who overpowered the shooter and saved countless lives was another straight man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can't explain why some people are put together psychologically in such a way that they just accept people who are different and love people who are different and appreciate people who are different. and other people take an AK-15 and try to kill them because they're different. It's just,
Yeah.
some people's hearts are just open and other people's hearts are closed. You know, one of the Christian mystics, Meister Eckhart, said, until your own heart is broken, the universe can't flow through it. People who are rich and entitled and privileged, their hearts are never broken, you know, and so they don't have room in their lives for people who are different. Their hearts are hard. Like it's like the Old Testament talks about Pharaoh's heart being hard. You know, and something has to happen to you to soften your heart. And apparently this family, maybe because they were isolated, maybe because they were lower socioeconomic, you know, they just didn't have that prejudice in them. They didn't just hate Black people because they were Black, and some others did.
And they were somewhat ostracized in town or looked down on in town, even before they brought Landry and Prentice into their fold, so to speak. Yeah.
But they had China, which other people didn't have. So at some point, their family seemed like they had money. But maybe it was George's dad's family.
Yeah, it was his
Yeah,
dad and.
I
and
think
we
that's
don't
what
know
Bud
about
was saying
Isabel's
earlier, that apparently there had been some money, or they
Yeah.
wouldn't have owned all that land.
Right. Who in this book did you identify with? It was tough, wasn't it? They were weird. Sorry. How about towards the end? Did anything change for you then?
One of the things that I thought was really interesting was usually in a novel, you have one protagonist, it's somebody's story.
Right.
You know, you have a protagonist and it's their story. I couldn't figure out whose story this was. Was
No.
it George's story, or was it Prentice and Landry's story, or was it Caleb's story? And then at the end, I decided it was Isabel's story.
Isabel's story.
Yeah.
And do you think Isabel and Mildred hooked up at the very end?
They said they didn't, but I don't believe it.
They were,
I have my
they were,
doubts.
what do you call it? Platonic.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
There's a sequel coming.
My biggest question was, why, if the beast was a bear, why didn't they call it a bear? The beast was through the whole book, but at some point someone said bear, but why wasn't it a bear throughout the whole book? Was it a bear?
I don't think the beast existed.
Me neither.
That weird thing where the beast disappears in the swamp when he reaches out and tries to put his hand on it and it just disappears.
Right.
And then it says for the first time he realized that the beast had always been there protecting him. Up until then, the beast was presented as this, you know, this very foreboding, dangerous creature that they just got glimpses of, but nobody could ever say what it was or anything. And then it appeared right in front of him and he tried to touch it and it disappeared. And then he said that's when he realized that it had actually been watching over him all of his life. And that's a very confusing symbol in the book to me. I didn't think that was very clear at all.
And at one time, didn't his father dress up as the beast, and had Taffy dress up as the beast?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
To scare him?
Right. When he was younger, his uncle told him that his father would sometimes dress up as the beast and give him glimpses of himself as the beast.
Oh, right. Mhm.
Yeah.
So no identifications with anyone?
Well, I, just as a gay man, I identify with Caleb.
And I'll identify with Landry just because he liked water
I
and nature.
identify with the whore. I'm just kidding. Probably out of all of them, that would be the.
Yeah, who'd you say?
I identify with the whore. I can't remember her name.
Clementine.
Oh,
Clementine.
Clementine.
Mhm.
Yeah, I kind of connected with Isabel there at the end,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Just because of some of the things she did and the way she decided to keep the land for George and the way she lived and the way she brought Mildred in and, you know, just the way she started to live. It just
yeah.
seemed very,
I never could understand why she wanted to never talk to her husband again because he didn't tell her right away that Caleb died at the beginning of the book. I
Yeah.
thought that was so weird. Like, he
Yeah.
told her eventually, you know? I don't know.
It
Yeah.
seemed like when they thought Caleb was dead,
Yeah.
her grief manifested totally differently than
Yeah.
his.
that's what I felt like too.
Yeah, and there were several suggestions that her grief sort of made her crazy. You know, she kind of lost touch with reality,
Mhm.
just from the depth of her grief.
And I know you guys alluded to Mildred and Isabel, but what about the relationship between George and Isabel? I mean, it was quite complicated,
Mhm.
you know?
Very.
Very.
I mean, even the scenes with the bathtub, right? He's in there taking a bath. Don't come in here, you know, and all this. And then she comes in and sits with him, and I'm like, what? You know, what's, you know? But they talk about each other very fondly, you know, and that was, I don't know how did you feel about it? I was surprised, you know.
And he just went to Clementine to talk about Isabel, right?
Well, it sounded like, yeah.
That was strange. I guess she was his therapist.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah, that's the way I took it.
Which a lot of sex workers say their primary role is. A lot of sex workers say that being a sex worker is secondary to being a therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like being a bartender, huh?
Sometimes not a huge difference.
Yeah. Did you, anybody have any other thoughts about their relationship, George and Isabel's? Anything that happened between them that you, besides, I know, of course, when you thought that Caleb died and the grief that they expressed.
They just seem to come close together and then move apart, and come closer together and then move apart, and come close together and move apart. And when I thought back about that, I think I've known some couples like that.
Yeah.
I think I've watched some couples in my own family, you know, sort of like that. That there were moments when they realized how much they really cared about each other, and there was a lot of intimacy and independence and so forth. And then they move away, and it was almost sort of like they resented each other, and there didn't seem to be a lot of affection. You know, so that may just be a kind of a relationship pattern, you know, that happens for some people. And then that social situation they were living in, which made their lives very, very difficult. Each of them had expectations of the other that the other couldn't meet.
Right.
They disappointed each other.
Yeah.
And that's when that push-pull thing
Yeah.
would happen.
And they also allowed for it, you know, they allowed each other to be who they were to a large degree, you know, they didn't necessarily accept it, but they tolerated it, right? With one another. I also felt like they didn't feel like they could talk to each other. They had to talk to, like, he went and talked to Clementine, she went and talked to Mildred. You know, they didn't express themselves with each other. And that's probably also was part of the times. That was probably the way it was for a lot of men and women, right? That they didn't communicate that well, husbands and wives, I would guess, but I don't know.
Remember when Isabel went to Clementine
Yep.
and Clementine said, "Your husband is afraid of you."
Mhm.
I think that may have been just a part of that whole role, that masculine, feminine, or the roles of men and women and all of that, you know, at that time. But I found that really interesting.
Yeah. And the expectations of men and women and the roles that they were supposed to play, right?
Mhm.
What else do I have here? Okay, besides slavery, what other topics or themes did you think were prominent in the book?
Social norms or social stigmas, I guess is what,
Do you have an example, Kelly?
well, like that, they were ostracized because of him accepting the Black people. I guess that is racism, huh? But the whole thing about the China was very mysterious to me. Like, that family was supposed to be wealthy, and so they were trying to maintain a front with the China. So I guess that's kind of what I meant, like social awareness.
Yeah, classism, right? To some,
Yeah, I guess that would be more
Um,
accurate.
was that expressed, you guys think, in that book? Classism? Other parts of? What else?
I think it was confusing classism because I really couldn't decide where George's family fit. Because they had the China and the land, but then they didn't seem like they were accepted in that class.
They did they want to be though?
No, I didn't think so.
Yeah, until she wanted to hurt her, I don't think she cared if she'd given her China and let her use it forever. She didn't care about that, right? Until she
Mhm.
wanted to mess with her. But the whole power thing struck me too. And I know that that was also just a part of that time period, but you know, the power that Austin's dad had over the whole town, even when the general class came in there and he was supposed to be, you know, making sure that the laws were maintained regarding the slavery and regarding, you know, Black people being freed and so on and so forth and everything else. He was, you know,
Yeah,
to, you know.
that was sad to me. And why did he have power? Because didn't seem to me he had money.
Well, he had money, or at least he had some money. He
He
had,
just didn't have China.
he had a business. Maybe they lost their China in some kind of, you know, bankruptcy thing or something, you know, and
Or maybe the northern troops stole it, or
could be.
broke it.
Who, what about Ezra? he have power?
I can't remember who that is.
He was the financial advisor for George.
Oh, right.
He took care of he took care of all the financial stuff.
Hmm.
But he also didn't agree that the way George was acting, hiring the Prentice and Landry.
Mm-hmm.
And why do you think he objected to it? Did it just because he cared for George, or did it
I
have,
think he was racist.
excuse me?
I think he was racist. Like,
Oh, and it was also that there were all those soldiers, Confederate soldiers that had come back to the town and they didn't have jobs.
right.
And he was paying Landry and Prentice way more than what they would have thought was acceptable in terms of just the general society from previous times. And he was adamant about it being that they were going to get paid for what they did. And he wasn't going to change from that. In the same way that Isabel stood up in that at that luncheon, you know, to say, don't be talking smack about us because we're not going to have anything, and give me back my china. So
Yeah.
Told everyone it was her China.
Gonna have to read this book just to find out what's so important about the China.
I know.
It's only important to Kelly. It's important to Kelly.
Every other sentence is the China, and they got the China.
That's a Kelly. Oh, God. All right. Well, I didn't have a whole lot, any other questions. I actually thought that there would be more conversation that exploded out from this. Did it leave you guys melancholy? It did me, but
Yeah, I thought it was sad. The whole thing was sad. It's like, it didn't have any, I mean, how George and his family was uplifting, but then it was so, they were so punished for it that it just made you, it reminds me of the hopeless, helpless feeling you have with society today.
you know,
I couldn't understand Caleb's relationship with his father. I never could figure it out. And
Seemed like he was more connected to his mom.
yeah, I think he was a mama's boy.
Mhm.
Yeah, they described him as being soft. And I
Yeah,
think at one point they even said effeminate or something
Yeah.
about it. I've used a feminine reference to him. So that would play into that old stuff, you know, about gay boys, you know, being called, you know, gay boys are caused by overprotective mothers and distant fathers. And I've always said it's the exact opposite. Gay boys cause overprotective mothers and distant fathers.
uh,
But that's what that situation was. You're right about that. That his father loved him and even accepted that part of him, but didn't know how to relate to it. Just
Right.
couldn't really relate to it.
yeah, he seemed to really get that he probably was gay. It sounded like to me, because even when he was talking with Isabel that time, he said, you know, who knows what the nature of their relationship is. We know that there's a very deep bond, and let's just leave it at that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
that was,
Yeah.
you know.
I
and-
was surprised that didn't play a bigger part in the story, you know? Like, it didn't seem to affect Austin afterward.
You,
well,
well,
he had to get
nobody
married.
knew.
Yeah. He had to get married, and then he let his wife die in the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb seemed to me to be a very attractive sweet, good person. And Austin seemed to be just a real piece of crap,
Mhm.
you know, and so it was hard for me. I understood the physical attraction, you know, but I wanted something more for Caleb than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the gay thing was not talked about, just like it wasn't talked about then.
Right.
That kind of stuff was just, you know, not even brought up. Really, you know?
There was one other theme toward the end of the book. You asked about just other things that were raised that I thought was really significant, and it was the necessity of women bonding with each other across all of these other barriers just to survive, probably. But that relationship that did develop between Isabel and Mildred, and then when Clementine actually came, and that deep emotional thing that happened so fast between Clementine and Isabel, you know, it was these women bonding and depending on each other as just sort of a way of saying, if we don't depend on each other, there's nothing else in this world we can count on.
Yeah. Well, they were left without men and, you know, had to figure out what to do without them. And in that society, that was still a time frame when if you didn't have a man to take care of you, what were you supposed to do, right?
Mhm.
I was really surprised. I kind of expected her to invite Clementine to live with her, you know?
Hmm.
She liked the little girl.
Yeah.
Anything else? I think it has some value at the end, the way that they, you know, for Isabel, it seemed like there was, and really for George too. Well, even Caleb, I think all three of them, they had some personal growth that occurred near the end of the book. You know, Caleb taking responsibility for things, getting Prentice out of jail and, you know, getting him safe. Isabel just opening up, George, you know, starting some work and bringing those guys in. It seemed like there was some personal growth that occurred during this season. And that seems to be something that typically happens when there are hard times, right? We go inside and you get some spiritual growth or personal growth from some of that. New awarenesses, something.
Thought he was a very good storyteller. I thought this was a really good story. I thought the characters were really interesting and well developed, and it really is historical fiction because it gives us a real insight into one of the most unique periods of this country's history. The Reconstruction, you know, immediately after the Civil War, I learned a lot just about what was happening in social interactions, social, economic, the way the economy was changing, you know, during that it was a very strange
Yeah.
period of time.
Yeah, and the way he did it, like you said, Ken, the way he got into everybody's head and you couldn't quite tell whose story it was or who was, you know, who it was really about or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting.
Expected it to be about the two slaves, but that didn't play out at all.
Yeah. To some degree. But there was development of characters, right?
Right.
So. All righty then. Well, Kristen, you're gonna go read it?
Think I will.
You gonna go finish
It's
it?
worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, I'm halfway through it. I just didn't finish it, so I don't know anything about the dishes. I can't wait to learn about the china. What about this china?
Oh my God.
You might not even notice the china. It was me that noticed it so much, I guess.
Oh, now it's in my head.
Yeah.
You're
When
on
do-
mute.
All say that together. Everybody say it at once. Joby, you're on mute. Yeah.
You're on mute.
Joey, you're on mute.
I got all excited because of next month's book. Cheryl, what's it going to be again?
The cookbook.
Oh yeah. So if you like
Sanctuary Kitchen Cookbook.
a Sanctuary Kitchen cookbook, and I'm sure you need a few, my goodness. And Kelly, before you buy them for your family, you might be getting one for Christmas, just maybe. But I'm sure you have friends that could use this fabulous cookbook. Anyway, and then you can put your pictures in it. That would be great. Either email us at talk to us. I think the website's almost ready where you can just go pound and order it from there. But we're still working the tweaks out a little bit on that. So the safest way is to email us at talktous@sanctuaryinthewoods.com. And that way you can give us your address and how many of books you'd like, because, you know, there's no breaks for volume, just saying. But you still can order, you know, a number of books. And we will sign them and wrap them if you like, and get them out in the mail for the most fabulous holiday gift giving you've ever wondered. All right. And
Wow.
then Bud, what's happening next week on
Tuesday after Monday,
yeah.
Giving Tuesday.
Yeah. Warm them up your credit cards, people. We got a hole to fill out here, and it's not full. Yeah, we're excited about that. Thanks everybody for coming tonight, and thank you for the loyalty of this book club. Goodness, you know.
And we don't know, you guys, what we're gonna do for next year. We know, with CLM coming, we're gonna be taking over a lot of the Tuesday nights. And so we may end up moving on with the book. I know, Carol, you brought up a good one. Maybe you should share it so that other people could go read it if they wanted to. Janice Pilgrim also shared that she's getting ready to read Michelle Obama's new book.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I
That's
want to read
fun.
that one too, for
Yeah.
sure. That
Yeah.
one, that sounds excellent.
Yeah.
And if we may end up doing something a little bit different next year. I mean, when Cheryl says CLM's taking over, that second, on the 10th of January, that second info session, we're going to probably give people 1 week for breathing and then start up on the 17th or 24th, sorry, 24th. And we've ran, it's 18 sessions. We have run them through the calendar and like taken off on Valentine's Day, taken some time off on Easter, things like that. But it really, because of the way it's running, it's going right through June, which is quite unusual. But it is a pilot, and we're looking for some fabulous folks. So if you've attended before, Chris and I know I've already got your name in there. Okay. This really could be what Sanctuary, one of our dreams, right, Ken? Cheryl, one of the things we've been working on for almost 20 years. So to bring this to more people
Wow.
and invite the transformation. Carol, if we even began to tell you the people's lives who've been changed by taking this course, it would fill, well, almost fill the doctorate.
Oh, wow.
So-
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, make sure you make the December. We'll have a really good information session. And then we're trying to get upwards of 50 folks this first time to see how we can scale it, you know, how big we can go, how big makes sense. But we'll probably, because of its size, only run it once a year, you know, and we'll definitely want to finish, like next year, we'll probably put it up in the fall and then in the springtime. And so we'll be done before summer, a little bit different. But this year, with the way things were and with what took priority, Cheryl?
The cookbook.
The cookbook almost killed us. So please buy 2 or 3. So that was a big project. So we really couldn't put CLM up at the same time. Too many things competing with the cookbook, Bud's Giving Tuesday program, and with the annual meeting. Love you all.
Right.
Appreciate your loyalty. We hope you have a very wonderful Thanksgiving for those of you in the United States, and the holiday season. And please stay tuned. We will keep in touch. you know, and again, like the website should really be in about a week or before. Bud, what's your thing next week?
Now,
Giving
Joey,
Tuesday.
Yeah, before Tuesday, the
Joey.
website will be all gorgeous. And all
before
the
you
information will
close
be-
out, I would like for Carol to share the book that she came up with, just so people could have it to read if they want to.
Sure.
Oh, okay. It's called The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. It's a really funny book. It's funny, it's lighthearted. It's about an orphanage that has 6 peculiar children. Like one thinks his dad is Satan, one is like a gnome, one is a sprite. So and it's about this guy who comes to inspect the orphanage to make sure, you know, what's going on here. Is it, do they need to close it down or not? It's really funny.
Again, the
lighthearted.
name,
Oh, let me.
the house,
There you go.
The House in the Cerulean Sea.
It's in the chat there.
CRU.
Yeah, it's still quite popular in southeastern Wisconsin. They've got about 50 copies at the library, and there's always a line waiting for that book.
Wow.
Really?
A lot of people find it. Yeah, it was. I think it was out 2 years ago. It's already been 2 years.
Wow.
Wow, your face
But-
lit up when speaking of it, Carol. We probably should have had it over like the holidays or
Yeah,
after this
something-
book to perk people back up again.
It's funny. I listen to the audio. I've read it twice. I rarely read books more than once. Rarely. I read it twice. I listened to the audiobook and I read it as a regular book. It was great.
It looks like it. Look at her face. I'm not sure I've
Thank
seen
you
your face
all
that
so
smiley in a
much.
long time.
For all your, for being so loyal and stuff and for bringing so many fabulous books. Love it.
Yes, it's been fun. So
Yeah.
thank you all.
Yeah.
Be
Thank you.
safe out there.
You're
Eat
all-
too much, drink too much, and then take an ice. Okay?
Yes.
If you don't know what that is, call me. I'll help you out. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Love you all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye.
See you
Good
next
night.
time.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Kristen, we're just switching Zooms. Bye, guys.
Bye.